Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Album. This video is part 2 of the tutorial on how I made the baby's first year mini album. Part 2 is going to take you, so part 1 was making the album cover and putting in the pages, making the hinge, all that. Part 2 is going to be the inside front cover, the flap on page 1, page 2, and the front of page 3. So we'll go up to 4 months in this video. Hopefully I'll be able to finish the rest of it in a third video. There also is a walkthrough of the whole mini album, so if that's what you want to see, that's listed in the description box. It's in a playlist. So without any further ado, let's start making the pages. Okay, before we get started in putting in the different elements for the pages, we're going to do a little bit of pre-work. So first I want to label everything. So this is obviously the front cover, and by the way, we're going to do this a little bit later, but I'm going to put front cover. It's not that we need it to be labeled. We want to know which is up and which is down. This is the inside front cover. So I'll write IFC. This is page 1 front, 1 back, 2 front, 2 back, etc. It will help later on. Inside back cover and back cover. Okay, and then this is, of course, the spine. And again, we know it's a spine. You could also just write an arrow so you know which way is up, but I like to do that just so I don't put things on backwards. It has been known to happen. All right, if you're using the same paper as I am, there is a page that has the months 1 through 12 and it's got 3 cut aparts. So cut all of these out. We will be using all of those elements. There have been other baby books that I've used that have 4x4 elements for the months. So cut those out if that's what you're going to use. But anyhow, get those all together because we'll be using those. All right, now that we know that, we're going to work on not the front cover, but we're going to start with the inside front cover, but we don't need the book right away, so we can put that aside. All right, I'm going to go over what you'll need for the inside front cover. We're going to start with the cardstock. Now I'm using 65-pound weight for most of it, but for some of the flaps, I'm adding in some 110-pound cardstock. If you don't have that, feel free to use the 65-pound. Otherwise, you might be using 80-pound, 87-pound, and you can use that for everything. All right, so what you'll need is 8 pieces for the waterfalls that are 6 1/4 by 4 3/4. I'm just going to go over the size first, and then we'll score it all. For the base for the waterfall, you'll need a piece that is 6 3/8 by 8 1/2. For the left side flap, you'll need a piece, and here I'm using the heavyweight, 6 by 8 1/2. And for the right side flap, you'll need a piece that is 5 1/4 by 8 1/2. Let's go ahead and score this 5 1/4. Oops, you'll need another piece that is 2 3/8 by 6 3/4. Let's take this right side flap with the 5 1/4 side at the top, score it at 1/2 inch. And score it at 3/4. For this little piece, the 2 3/8 by 6 3/4, this is going to be the closure for the waterfall. Put it at the top with the 6 3/4 side at the top and score it at 1/2 inch. For the left side flap with the 6 inch side at the top, score it at 1/2 inch. And score it at 3/4. 1/2 and 3/4. The base, you won't do any score. For these 8 waterfalls, actually, we're going to put the 4 3/4 side at the top, and you're going to score them all at 4 1/4. I find you'll always get this to be 4 1/4 if you do it that way. If you do it this way, if for some reason the paper is cut funky, it's not always going to be 4 1/4. Double check your measurements. So all 8 pieces of 6 1/4 by 4 3/4 with the 4 3/4 side at the top, score at 4 1/4. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this and then attach it into the book. So we'll take our base and we'll take our left flap and right flap. Now what I want you to do with these, we're not going to miter the corners, and we're just going to burnish right now at that 1/2 inch. Don't burnish at that 3/4. Just burnish the 1/2 inch right now. So we'll do the same for the right side flap. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach this, making sure the top and bottom are lined up. We're going to attach it. Now I want you to make sure, so for the right side, I want to make sure it's right up against this base piece. And then I will lift that up a little bit. Add glue to the tab and fold and burnish. Now, it really isn't necessary to have this base piece, but the only reason we're going to do this is to make sure that these pieces are really straight, so there's no give to them. All right, we're going to put glue on this 1/2 inch tab. And I'm going to put this paper right here. Make sure everything's even. And fold and burnish this piece down. Okay, the left side's the bigger one, the right side's the smaller one. All right, what we're going to do is add the waterfall pieces, which I've already scored and burnished all 8 of those pieces. So starting at about 1/8 of an inch away from the top, we're going to put this on and we're going to center it on there. Now, if you want, you could add a piece of coordinating cardstock right here. Cut it just 1/8 of an inch smaller, but you're really not going to see very much of it. You'll see just a sliver. So I didn't think it was worth adding the paper. So we're going to start with the first one. This is most important. So I'm going to turn this to the side just so I can make sure I have it centered. So I will put this just about 1/8 of an inch from the top. Make sure it's even on the sides. Everything's parallel. And then once you feel like you've got a good, everything's lined up, go ahead and burnish. And then you'll take the next one, add glue to that tab. And of course, we didn't miter these tabs. So the bottom of this first one, we're going to put the top of the second one right up against it. Make sure the side is still parallel to everything. And then burnish. So you'll do that with the rest of the pieces. I'll go ahead and do it in fast motion. All right, now we're going to take this piece, the 2 3/8 by 6 3/4. Before I put it on, we're going to add a piece of coordinating cardstock that is 2 1/4 by 6. So this piece I'm going to put on is for the top. And then I'm going to put a piece on the bottom, but before I do, I'm going to add a little bit of tape, and we're going to put a magnet there. So I use magnets that are from Total Elements. They do not have adhesive on, so I have to add my own adhesive, which is not a big deal. For the cost, it's worth that extra trouble of doing that. So I will put that down and add glue. So this is the same size as the other one, 2 1/4 by 6. You could have rounded the corners if you wanted to, but because the element I'm going to add on here is square, I'm not going to. Okay, this is the top. So I'm going to add one of these pieces that came off of the month page, and it says brand new. I just like the browns on here. All right, I'll fold and burnish on the score line. Again, I don't need to miter this. I will use the grid on my surface here to make sure that I get it in straight. Okay, and now I've got the magnet under here. I'll put the corresponding magnet right there. I'm going to add a drop of glue, just a tiny little drop, and let the magnet close. And I can see, although it's probably hard for you to see, where that drop of glue was. So I'm going to take a piece of double-sided tape and put it there. And let this close again. And that's where the magnet will stay. Now we're going to cover that. This piece of pattern paper, it's the back side of the rainbows, is 4 by 6. Of course, you could use the rainbows if you want to. You can use anything you want to. I will put that on here, and there should be an 1/8 inch on all 4 sides. And that'll close like that. Now, I have this piece from the pattern paper. This is 2 inches by 12. We're going to cut it down. Into smaller pieces. First, I'm going to cut it 6 inches. And then I'm going to take my paper trimmer and I'm going to cut it into 1/2 inch pieces. So I know we started at 2, so I'm going to go to 1 1/2. 1 and a half. And I'll do the same with this other piece. 1 and a half. 1 and 1/2. All right. I'm going to start at this bottom piece. And center that on there. And there's about 1/8 of an inch showing. So I will I'll put glue just on there and then add a little bit of glue just to the sides. And the reason I started at the bottom is that way you can make sure that all the ones going up are lined up perfectly. And then I'll take this last piece and put it at the bottom. There we go. And again, I lined up the sides. So there we go with the waterfall. All right, to finish this up, I'm going to use some coordinating cardstock to make photo mats. Now, you can put a 5x7 photo on this side and a 4x6 photo on that side, or you could put 4x6 here and 4x6 there. So what you'll need is a piece of cardstock that's 5 1/8 by 7 1/8. So if you were to put a 5x7 photo, you'll only have a little bit showing, but that's okay. So that's going to go over here. I'm going to put that on the left side with just the smallest mat margin, just a 1/16 of an inch all around it. Okay, so this is 5 1/8. We're going to take pattern paper. So I'm taking this side and we're going to cut it down to 5 1/8 by 12. So the reason we want it the same size is because we're going to cover the front. So the front is 8 1/2 tall. So we're going to cut this. It's 5 1/8. We're going to cut it to 8 3/8. So I'm using the rainbows because the front cover is going to have the rainbows as a feature. So I'm just going to continue that rainbow motif for the front cover, for the inside front cover. So again, there will be a 1/16 of an inch all around it. I like small mat margins. If you want bigger ones, then you can just cut it 1/4 of an inch smaller. All right, so now with this piece left over, so cut this down, the leftover piece, 1 1/4 inch. And we can add it this way or this way. think I'm going to do it this way. But for here, so this piece, 4 3/8. Oh, let's not add that yet, actually. Let's get the piece for the front. So we're going to do the same thing. I have a piece of pattern paper. We're going to cut this to 4 3/8 by 12. So for the this side, we want this to be 8 3/8. But don't glue that down yet. But we can glue down here, and let's glue this down. So I'm going to glue it from the bottom, a 1/16 of an inch showing. And now here I've got 2 1/8 showing. So I'm going to cut it right at 2. And we'll put that there at the top. Okay. Just put this aside for now. Don't do anything with it. And I will have I don't like the rainbows here, just because that white background, they just don't pop. So I'm just going to go with this piece. Okay, now I've already cut pieces that are 8 3/8. So I cut some of the coordinating cardstock. This is one-sided. I've cut it 8 3/8, and then I cut it down. So we have a 1/4 inch gusset here. I need it to be slightly smaller than that. So this needs to be 3/16 of an inch. So I'm going to just add glue to this and put that in. And then I'll fold and burnish. Alrighty. And I'll do the same for here. Now, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. And fold and burnish. Alright, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to do the same for this side. I need one more, so I'm going to cut it down. So I'm eyeballing it. I'm looking to see where 1/4 would be, and then I'm going to cut it a little bit smaller than 1/4. All right, now we need a magnet. for this side. Oh, the size of these magnets are 3/8 of an inch. All right, before we do that, I have a piece of white cardstock. So this is where I use the scraps from all of my cut-off. This actually came from the piece after I cut the 4 3/4 by 6 1/4 piece. So that is 2 3/8 by 2 3/8. I'm going to add a piece of brown cardstock that is 2 1/4 by 2 1/4, and then I'm going to take this 2 by 2 decorative element and add that to the top. All right, on the back of this, I am going to add a piece of double-sided adhesive. Whoops. Wrong side. Well, so here is our element. I'm going to turn it over, and this is going to go on the left side. It's okay that I put it there. I'll just peel it off, and the brown paper will stay on it. So I'll peel that off and put on a magnet. Just peel it off and add another piece of the coordinating cardstock and cover this whole thing. Okay, I'm going to put the other magnet there. So this is going to go here. I'm going to add glue. It's going to be a little bit more than halfway. I'll open this up. Using my grid, I'm just trying to find the best place to adhere it. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'll add just a drop of glue onto that magnet, close this, make sure my gussets are all in the right spot, and then add another piece of double-sided adhesive. Varnish that real well. Peel off the backing. Match that up. Okay. And then I will take this last piece of our decorative paper and I will adhere it. Love all these natural tones. Okay, well, there we go. So now we'll take this and just let's size it, see where it's going to go. Make sure the book will close, which it will. So you can glue it. I'm going to add just a couple of pieces of double-sided adhesive just to help. I mean, it's a lot that you would have to glue. Now I like to have the perimeter available to add the glue, the liquid glue. So I am going to take some, add it on this tab. This tab too. All right, and want to make sure it goes to the left side. Want to make sure it's exactly even with the top and bottom and the left side cover. And I want to make sure it doesn't go over the line of where the spine meets the front cover. Now that I've got it on there, I'm going to open everything up and burnish. All right, before I close this up, I'm going to grab my stickers. And I feel like I want to go with the rainbows. So I'm going to take large rainbow here and center it on that smaller rainbow here. Center it on that. I think that's it, because we've got, it says brand new. So that's all I'm going to do with the inside front cover. All right, now we're going to work on the front page 1. We're going to add a flap so we can add an extra page. So for that, and I'm using heavyweight cardstock, you'll need a piece that's 6.5 by 8 and simply score it at 1/2 inch. And I've already scored it, and I already put in 1/8 double-sided tape, just because sometimes this heavyweight cardstock doesn't want to adhere that easily. So sometimes I use that 1/8 inch tape. You don't have to, just be more patient than I am. So we have that. We'll add that to the book. But before we do that, let's score these. So I have a folder base for that piece that is 5 1/4 by 6 1/4. With the 5 1/4 side at the top, I'll score it at 1/2 inch and 4 3/4. I'll move that aside, and then I have 2 pieces that are 8 1/2 by 6 1/4. With the 8 1/2 side at the top, score it at 4 1/4 for both of those pieces. All right, now let's miter this base piece. So there are the score lines on each of the long sides, so I'm just going to take off a little bit of that, and we'll fold and burnish. I'm folding these up so the little tabs face straight up. Well, maybe not straight up, but, and then we'll go ahead and fold these. Now what I'm going to do is take one piece, I'll put glue on the inside of the tab, take my folder and put it right up against the tab, make sure the bottom and the top are lined up, and then fold that over and burnish. All right, we'll open that up and do the same with the other side. So I'll add glue to the tab. And then we'll add this folder and fold and burnish. So what this is, it gives you room for 9 photos, and then you can just fold it. Now, in order to keep this closed, we're going to use some seam binding. So what we're first going to do is put down our decorative paper, and then add this, then add the seam binding, and then add this, and we'll put one of our cut aparts on top. Okay, so I'm going to take, I'm going to take the page that we've made, which is really, again, just a large flap, and I will attach that on the left side of the page. Put it on the page, don't put it on the hinge. I'm putting it on the page, burnish it here, and burnish it there. No, I'm not using a magnet because it's just a page. All right, so first we'll put on our pattern paper, which I cut it down to 7 7/8, and that is simply going to go right on the top. Now, you don't have to use a pattern paper. You could use a solid if you want, because really not much is showing. But the reason I wanted this is because I want this pattern to be replicated. So that way it's just got a little continuity. So this will go here. And there's just a slight little border all around. All right, now I have cut some seam binding. And I think I'm going to just tape it down. I'm going to center a piece of double-sided permanent adhesive. It's about a 3.5 inch piece. And I'll peel that up. I'll find my center. Stretch this out flat. And just put that there. Okay, so this is the bottom side of the folder. I'm just going to figure out where it needs to be centered on the page, and then I'll add glue. You know, at this point, I'm going to add glue around the 3 sides, and then just a little bit above the seam binding, because if I decide I want to use it as a tuck spot later, I will, meaning we could add a little tag in there. So I'm going to add glue here, add glue there, and then add glue to the bottom here. Alrighty. So again, going to center it. So there's just about 1 inch showing on all 4 sides. Okay, and then for the front, so determine which piece you want to have for the front. I'm going to have the flap on the right side, the last piece, and I'm going to add this here. The sentiment says, "Look out world, here I come." I thought that would be really cute. So I said you can put 9 photos. If you want to cover this up, you can. Otherwise, you have room for 8 portrait style photos here. So this is still, I know we're doing the months, but this is still newborn, because you know how many photos you have of newborns. Like a lot. All right, I'll burnish that and then go ahead and tie this. Now you probably ask how much seam binding I had. Well, I mean, stretched out it was 24 inches. So maybe a little more. Depends on how dangly you want it. So there we go. That was a quick one, wasn't it? All right, we'll move on to the back of the flap for the front of page 1. We're going to work on the front of page 1 and the back of that flap for page 1. This is easy. We don't have too many elements. We're simply going to add some pattern paper. I like it when the designs match. And this pattern paper is 5 7/8 by 7 7/8. So you'll need 2 of those. So what I do is cut down the paper to 7 7/8 and then cut it almost in half, 5 7/8. Incidentally, I will tell you that you may see offcuts that are different sizes than what you have. I have several collections that I'm working with because I'm making 2 at a time, because I make one and then make one in front of the camera just so you can see how I do it. So I just wanted to mention that just in case you see some weird cuts that you don't have. All right, so this will go here. And I will burnish. So that's easy. And these are so cute. Love the patterns of this. All right, so now I've cut several pieces of cardstock. So we're going to have 2 different sizes of photo mats. One is going to be for a 4x6 photo, and one's going to be for a 5x4 photo. So you can do a 4x6, just cut a little off. And I've already cut white photo mats for where the photos are going to go. You could do 2 things. You could include the white photo mat, and if you want to show some of that, just cut your photos down a little bit. Or don't include the white photo mat and put your photos directly on the colored cardstock that's going to go below that. So below the 4x6, so you don't need these if you're going to put photos right on here. Below the 4x6 is a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 photo mat. I didn't cut this down right. So I am going to adhere this to this brown. And again, I don't know if I mentioned this, or I'll mention it again if I did. The cardstock that I'm using is simply from my stash. It is the best practice to purchase coordinating cardstock unless you have a huge supply of different color cardstock. I've gotten that I didn't mean to do that, but I'll go ahead and put this down now. I've gotten to where I don't keep that much cardstock. So there will be about 1/4 of an inch on each side and about 1/2 inch down. And then this will go on top of it. So I don't keep much cardstock in my stash anymore. I do try to purchase coordinating cardstock whenever I get a collection. Now, these collections I've had for a little bit, and maybe there wasn't any available, so that's why I have that. All right, and this will go down to the bottom, so about 1/4 inch from the bottom, 1/4 of an inch from the side. I'm not including a tuck spot for this one, just because of the placement of it on the page. 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Okay, so we've got that. Now, so I've got my months. I have 1 month and 2 months. I have cut white cardstock 2 3/8 by 2 3/8, and then I've cut coordinating cardstock 2 1/8 by 2 1/8, and this is 2 by 2. So that'll work. It just sort of adds a little more weight to it than if you just were to put this down. I mean, that's okay, you could do that. But by matting this, it just makes it more of a focal point, at least until you get the baby photos on. And again, I've got another video using a different baby collection, and I did a similar style, but the months, the cut aparts for the months are 3x4. I think they were all 3x4. So check that out if you're working with a collection that doesn't have these 2x2s. Sorry, I keep forgetting where the camera is. Keep going a little off camera. All right, I like that. So for 1 month, we're going to put this up at the top, but just glue it down on the top and the side so you can still stick a photo underneath. So that'll go here. Oh, this will be adorable. And then 2 months is going to go we could put that here if you wanted to. I'm going to put it down at the bottom, not lined up with the side here, just over a little bit. So it's about ½ an inch from the bottom of the paper. Now, before we move on, I'm going to look for some stickers to go along with that. So I want something of a pretty good size there, so I'll go with the lion. And then over here, I'll go with the elephant. Now I am going to take some powder. So one of these, this is a, who is this by? Oh, EK Success. It takes the stickiness off of stickers. So I'm just going to take it off of the lion's head and put that. So half of the lion, this is open, so you still can add your sticker there. And same with the elephant. I'm going to take some of the powder and put it on the side. Now you could, if you wanted to, fussy cut this, put it on some white cardstock. I'm just going to put it right here. Well, so there's an elephant here. I want to cover that. I'll cover that. Just cover it just so it doesn't duplicate the pattern. So there we go. So these are still open because of the anti-stick, so you still could put photos there. So that is all we need to do for 1 month and 2 months. It occurred to me that I can show you what we're going to be working on before we work on it, so you have an idea of what we're doing. So here we go. So for the 3 months, it's a side loading pocket, and inside the pocket is just a little folder. For 4 months, this flap opens, and this flap opens, and there's room for either a 4x6 or a 5x7 photo. So that is that. So let's go ahead and start on it. Let's work on 3 months first. So for the back of 1B, let me move this out of the way. You need a piece that is 3 by 9. Pull in the scoreboard And with the 3-inch side at the top, score it at 1/2 inch. Now rotate and score at 1/2 inch and at 8.5. In the meantime, let's do this folder. So this is 6 1/4 by 8.5. We're simply going to score it at 4 1/4 with the 8.5 side at the top. Move that over, grab my scissors. Nothing we need to do with the folder except fold and burnish it. But for this piece, we will we'll bevel these top pieces, and then this piece where the score lines create an X, we'll just cut right across that X, right in the center. And this will make a pocket. I'll fold and burnish on these score lines. Okay, and then we'll pull in the book. And I am going to just adhere the side tab first. Get in there. All right, so just line it up with the left-hand side of the page. And then I'm going to open it up and burnish. I'm going to grab a piece of tape. You could use Scotch tape, packing tape, whatever you want, but I'm going to simply take this and put it over that tab onto the page. So I cut it probably 7, 7.5, something like that. So now if for some reason you don't put your paper on the bottom, like if you're using scraps and it doesn't go all the way in, then it won't get hung up on this tab. Not that it's the worst thing in the world, but I've gotten used to doing that. And I'll glue in the sides. Okay, so for this, I have a piece already cut. This is 2 3/8 by 7 7/8. I'll glue that on. Okay. I feel like either that pocket was a little big or this piece was a little small, but it's fine. And then I have some green cardstock. It does have some weight on it, but that's not a big deal. This is no bigger. It needs to be 7 7/8 tall, but you can make it shorter if you want to. Oh, well, what the heck? Sorry, folks, cutting it down. It was still 8.5. So this piece of white is going to go all the way in. And then there we go. This is a gummy, not a gummy eraser. It's an adhesive remover. And I got some extra adhesive on here, so it just peels it off. Okay, and then finally for that side, well, not finally, there's still more. All right, I have a piece of white cardstock that is 2 3/8 by 2 3/8. This is a little bit bigger than 2 1/8 by 2 1/8. So that can go in the center of that. And then the 3 months will go in the center of that. So this is great to raid your scrap pile to get all different colors. And then I will center that on here. That'll just get centered. And what am I, about 3/4 of an inch from the side? Yeah, probably. I just like it to go over the page, to overlap the page a little bit. All right, and then for our folder, we have this piece. Now, I really wish that these critters were on this side, because then they'd peek out, but it is what it is. I suppose if I thought this through, I would change it so this pocket's over here. But I'm not going to worry so much about it. So I will center that on here. So that will give you room for 3 4x6 photos inside this folder. So I don't mat this. I don't feel like we need to. It would take up too much room. So there is that. At the end, I'm going to go through and see what other cut aparts I can add, and I might add a couple extra in here. But let's work on the front of page 2. So for that, I have a piece that's 3.5 by 8 for the right flap, and the left flap is 5 by 7. Grab the scoreboard. 5 by 7 with the 5-inch side at the top, score at 1/2 inch. And for this 3.5 by 8 with the 3.5 side at the top, score at 1/2 inch. Let's miter the corners. I got smart and I mitered it, or I scored it so you can still see my rating. Not that it matters, but you probably were tired of trying to read things upside down. All right, let's fold and burnish on the score lines for both these pieces. And then we'll pull in the book. So this right flap, we will, right flap, left flap. It's the right page, left flap. We're going to center on the page, so right on the page, not on the hinge. So it'll be 1/2 inch from the top, 1/2 inch from the bottom. And just put it right on that page. Burnish it real well. And there we go. And now the right flap, of course, we're going to put it on the right side. Okay, I'm going to put magnets on here. Now we are going to have a little, the 4-month flap go over, and we could add the magnets to the flap, but I'm going to put it on the page just so that flap doesn't get too much stress on it. We don't want to stress it out. Okay, so I'm going to put double-sided adhesive. Whoops, no I'm not. I'm going to put double-sided adhesive, 1/2 inch from the edge of that left flap. I'll add a magnet, drop of glue, and Okay, let's cover this up with paper. All right, so for the left flap, you need a piece that is, how big is this? 4 3/8 by 6 7/8. And of course I'm using this green polka dot paper. 4 3/8, 6 7/8. And I'm putting the exact same one on the back. Such cute cut aparts, huh? And this is nice because it actually gives you room to put a photo. You could put a photo there and even a photo right there. Now I'm going to add some plain green cardstock. I put my glue sometimes in these smaller containers. Sometimes maybe it's carpal tunnel, I don't know. Sometimes my hands ache from pushing the glue. And if I put it in those smaller ones, I feel like I don't have to squeeze as hard. So if you wonder why, I think this one was a Gina K1. You can pick them up all over the place. I got that one from Scrapbook.com. Okay, now we have these pieces. So this will go here. Now you could use this side if you wanted to. And to be honest, that was my original intention. Was to have the plaid, because that would coordinate with this plaid. So how do you like that? But I felt like it was too matchy-matchy and needed a little more different pattern to it. Something with a smaller pattern, I guess. So I turned it over and used this side. And there's enough green in here to make it match, and of course it goes nice with the plaid. Okay, there's that. Now I have 2 3/8 by 2 3/8. It's almost 1 1/4. How will that look? Yep. About 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, and 2 by 2. But before we put this on, I have to put something on the back side. Because if you put it on here, you're going to open it and you'll see the white of that. So I cut just a smidgen of that plaid paper. It's probably 5/8 of an inch. Make sure I get it on the right side. By 2 1/4. I'll add glue here. And there we go. Now, final thing is I'm going to add a photo mat to this page. This is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. This is 5 by 7. I'm going to simply add that on. Should be a 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. All right, now before we put it on, what I want to do is make sure you don't see it when the page is closed. So this should be the exact same size as here. So I'm going to line it up with that. I'm gluing it like this just because I want to make sure it's in the right spot. And I don't want any of it to be seen with this closed. And so there we go. Oh, no, one more detail. Let's go ahead and add something to this page. I want something here, but we want to make it sure it's up high enough. I'm going to grab the bear. And I'm going to add some powder onto his side. And he's going to be up high enough that you don't see his legs dangling when that's closed. There we go. So you don't see the bear. And there we go. 3 months and 4 months. We're moving on. All right. Aren't you loving it so far? I think it's good for a boy or a girl. I just love this collection. But of course you could use it with a different collection. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link right here to go to the next video. And up here there will be a playlist of all of the videos. So we'll continue this in the 3rd video in the series. I'll see you there.